Welcome back. My sewing room is all cleaned up. I'm finished with the housewife projects and I am ready to make something simple and easy, something I've made several times just to not have to exercise my brain but still be a little bit creative. I'm going to make a shirt for work tomorrow. It's the Patterns for Pirates Basic Tee. I'm going to make the long sleeve version and the V-neck, the V-neck long sleeve version, and I'm going to make it using it's called Lush Rib Knit in a dusty pink, and the fabric is from Mily Mae Fabrics. If I have time, I might make a sweater to wear over top of it, but I also have several cardigans that'll go with it just fine. Anyway, join me on a quickie sewing adventure. So the first step of sewing together the basic tee is to sew the shoulder seams with your fabrics right side together. I don't tend to use pins when I do this, just because it's not very fiddly and it's pretty easy to keep the edges lined up. Sew them at 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then we'll attach the sleeves. Also, I don't ever use any thread in my serger that's not black, white, or gray. Those three colors work really, really well. Serged seams are generally never seen, and if you have your tension right, you're not going to have thread showing through your seam on the right side of the fabric. So there's seam. Now to sew on the sleeves, they have a center notch. If I can get it in my hand, they have a center notch right here. You line that up with the seam and make sure that it's right sides together, and then pin out from there to match the corners. On this also, you'll see I have another notch right here. That indicates that it is the front of the sleeve. Now, sewing the sleeves on is one time when I actually do use pins, just because you want to make sure everything's lined up properly and that you've eased the sleeve into the arm side appropriately. They work on opposite curves, so a little bit of easing is necessary to get it to fit correctly. Usually just one in the middle and one at each end works just fine for me. Now, if you haven't used a serger before, it's not a machine that you can run needles through. And you know, you're not supposed to run over needles with your sewing machine either, but the needle will miss pins frequently, and you can sew over them, even though it's not recommended. With the serger, you can't, because there's a blade there that cuts off the excess fabric. So what I do for my first pin is I put it in horizontally like this, so that it's going to go in next to the presser foot and hold my fabric in place while I get it situated. And pin the other sleeve. We'll get those sewn. So if these seam ends were not, they're going to be gone over again with the serger when I sew down the sleeve and side seam. Otherwise I would leave a long tail and feed it back through the seam just to keep it from unraveling. But since they're going to be seamed over, I don't worry about it. Get the other sleeve. So the next step in the process is to start, I'm going to show you on my shirt. We're going to put the shirt right sides together, sleeves, shoulders, clear down to the bottom hem of the shirt. And we're going to start at the cuff and hem all the way down the sleeve, through the armpit, and down the side of each side of the shirt. And then that will basically close up the shirt. So I actually decided to do the V-neck before I sewed up the side seams. But my battery's almost dying, so I'm not sure how much of this we're going to actually get filmed. So if you see here, I've basted about 1/2 inch away from the edge of my neck. I have made the band, and then I've also basted along the edge of the band. So what you do, I've got it backwards, is you line up the top of the cut to there. And you pin this center, and then you pull this side and you pin it to about here. And then you do the same with this side, and then you baste that at 1/2 inch. And then go ahead and attach the rest, or pin the rest of the neckband, and then you can sew the rest with your serger. This looks really good, so we'll keep it and stitch the neckband on the rest of the way. So I've got my neckband basted on with machine stitches, and now I'm going to attach it the rest of the way with my serger. And I always start at the V and serge all the way around. It is pinned at the notches on the front of the neckline and the center back. And you pull it just taut enough to line up the main fabric with the neckline, or with the neckband. You stretch the neckband, but you don't stretch the main fabric. Almost ran over that pin. That would have been awful. I hate changing my blades. And I always like my shoulder seams to go towards the back. So when I get close, I use a pin to just kind of hold it under the presser foot until it lays towards the back. And there is the V-neck. All finished. It'll look great with a press. Here we go. So you might be able to see better. So once I press it and remove the basting stitches, it'll look really, really good. And this pucker right here will be gone as well. So now I will do up the side seams and hem. Oh, if you've noticed, I've already put a 1/2 inch memory hem in the sleeve here, just because such a small circle, it's hard to press once you have the side seam done up. So now I have my hem marked already. It'll be easy to repress if I need to. So similar to the shoulder seams, I like the armpit seams to face down towards the bottom hem. So I always make sure that they're facing down and I catch them in the serger when I do the side seam. Oh, I did notice, so my serger didn't catch right away on the arm, so I'm just going to run it through backwards a little bit here just to make sure that it's caught well. Start the other arm. So my serger's been doing this lately, and I'm not sure what's going on, but it's causing a big thread bundle here. So I just cut that off. And this time I'll start it right on this edge instead of so that it's cutting. Now it's worked just fine that time. So the next step is hemming. So I'm going to go to the ironing board and press up the bottom hem and repress the sleeves, and then I will come back and record some more. So just like sergers, cover stitches finish the seam at the same time that you're hemming. At least that's what I use it for. But one thing about cover stitch machines is that, or at least mine, I have the Juki MCS 1500. When you start your hem, you go around part way, and then you need to pull all your threads to the back side, the wrong side of the fabric, and tie them off. Otherwise, the hem will unravel. So I'll get part way through my arm hem, pull all the first threads through, tie them off, and cut them. And then I'll finish off the seam and tie the end threads as well. So if you see me stopping and picking with a pin, that's what I'm doing. Oh, and I have to put on my old lady glasses to see because the stitches are small. Sometimes it's a little tricky getting it under the presser foot, but so make sure I'm lined up correctly. Once you get it there, it's pretty easy to use. Then to sew, put down the presser foot. The first 2 or 3 stitches you need to make with the hand wheel. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then you just sew around. So now that the stitching is on the close to me, where I can get to it easily, I'll make sure the needles are in the down position, just because I don't want to accidentally run over my fingers. And now I'll pull the threads through. So the easiest way I have found to do it is to go to this side. You can see a pink thread right there. So I just try to grab a hold of it with my pin and I pull it through. I should hold that one out of my way. I should be able to find, yep, a pink thread on this side as well. I know I put a pin in my mouth. Don't chastise me. I actually just made a wrist pincushion, so I would try to break this habit. But it's sitting over there on my sewing table where it's really helpful. There we go. So those are all tied off. Trim them off with about 1/8 of an inch ends. And we go the rest of the way around. So to release the threads, I go down, and instead of continuing the stitch, then I also go backwards instead of continuing and lifting the needles by taking a forward stitch. Lift the presser foot, and I can pull the threads out. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I didn't catch some of it there, so we're going to have to go over it. We'll have to do the same thing here. Pull the threads through. And tie them off. If this shirt were for someone in my family or it was going to be a gift, then I would totally take out all of this stitching and redo it to catch that edge. But since it's for me, nobody is going to notice it. I don't care. I'm going to just stitch over it and have 2 sets of stitches there. Totally not what I should do, but not feeling the extra work today. So I need to go from, oh, I barely didn't catch it too. There to there. I will pull those threads through later. For now, I'm going to do the other sleeve. You know what's going to happen is that that's going to bother me, and I will end up pulling it out and fixing it later. I just am not in the mood tonight. Oh, caught that one all the way around. I'm not sure what happened with that last one, unless it was just pulled funny when it went through the needles. I finished the patterns for Pirate's Basic Tee. I made the V-neck long sleeve version. It actually took me longer to record the video and explain how to make it than it actually does to make it. It really is very simple. The most difficult part is the V-neck, but the instructions in the pattern are really, really good. I've made enough of these that I don't really read the instructions anymore. V-necks are kind of my favorite, so I make them a lot. So I don't really, I guess I have my favorite way of inserting a V-neck neckband, and so that's the way I follow it. But the instructions in the pattern are excellent. So this is the shirt. It is the long sleeve version. I do like a little extra length on my sleeves, so they're actually long. I am about 5'9", so I add 2 inches to the trunk length of the shirts. Their patterns are made for people who are about 5 feet 5 inches tall, and so for every inch you are taller than that, you add ½ an inch of length. So I add 2 inches to the trunk length, but my arms are kind of short for my size, so adding the 2 inches to the sleeves gives me this extra long sleeve, which I like. The back is nice and fitted. The hems turned out really well, and I love my shirt, and now I have a new shirt to wear to work tomorrow. I love it. Thanks for watching. Again, this was a super quickie video. If you have any video requests or things that you would like me to show you how to do, like maybe a more in-depth tutorial of the V-neck, leave a comment below and I will try to get to that. If you liked this video, give me a like, and if you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you.